to call the meeting of the Carson City Board of Equalization to order. It's Tuesday, February 13th, 2024 at 9 a.m. Notice to the public. Members of the public who wish to view the meeting may watch live stream of the Board of Equalization meeting at www.carson.org/Granicus, GRANICUS, and by clicking on in progress next to the meeting date by turning. Do I need to read all that?
No.
Ben? Okay. I'll go on to the public may provide public comment in advance of the meeting by written submission. Okay, so why don't we go on to number 1, call to order and determination of quorum.
Okay, now that you called it to order, Chair Block, are you there?
Here.
Member Leonard Ray,
Here.
Member Bureau,
Here.
Member Sonata,
Here.
Member Kramer.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Okay, great. Now on to item number 2, swearing in of witness and staff.
Anyone presenting testimony today, please rise. Do each of you swear and affirm that the testimony that you will give today in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under the penalty of perjury of the laws of the state of Nevada? I do. Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay, and witnesses and staff. Okay, so we got that. On to item 3, public comment. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of the Carson City Board of Equalization, that on any matter that is not specifically included on this agenda as an action item. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public. So on to item number 4, for discussion only, Carson City Board of Equalization member orientation, Assessor Kimberly Adams, and Senior Deputy District Attorney Ben Johnson.
Good morning, Kimberly Adams, Assessor for Carson City. Thank you all for once again being here this morning and volunteering your time for the Board of Equalization. We do have one change to the agenda. We have a withdrawal for agenda item 5A. Lowe's has withdrawn their appeal. Other than that, there are no other changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Ben Johnson, Senior Deputy District Attorney for the record. I'm going to give you a very brief primer on ethics and open meeting law. So first of all, just some general tips if you haven't done this before, or a reminder for those who have. This is a quasi-judicial body, meaning you're not just a purely advisory board or committee that provides recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. The decisions that you make today can be appealed to the district court all the way up to the Supreme Court. So it's really important that we make an accurate record today. So please do remember to turn on your microphones when you speak and make sure that you're speaking into them so that the clerk can record and capture everything in case it needs to be used as a record later on. This is subject to the open meeting law. And basically what the open meeting law focuses on is transparency, because the public has the right to know what your deliberations are when you make a decision. So that means that all deliberations have to occur in this room. It's often that you might receive your packet materials, the week or days ahead of the meeting. So it's important that you don't read through it and then go to talk to another board member about something on the agenda. Whenever there's a quorum present, meaning a majority of the board, so in this case we have a 5-member board, so if 3 of you get together and start talking about something that's going to be on the agenda, that can be considered a meeting and it would be in violation of open meeting law. So it's just important that, if you happen to be at a function outside of, this body and you see other people, just don't discuss business. That's not so much of a problem with this board because, as like today, we're only meeting one time. But in the future, if we have multiple meetings that we're going to have because there's so many appeals, it's just important to remember that in between the meetings, you don't talk about something that may come before the board because the city can get an open meeting law violation. It's investigated by the Attorney General's office, and there could be trouble. You're also not supposed to deliberate or take action outside of an agendized meeting. And again, we consider deliberation, talking as taking action. So again, just don't speak about stuff outside of the meeting. It's always great to put it on the record so that the public knows the reason why you're making your decisions. This includes, there's something called a walking quorum. And so this doesn't actually have to mean that you're meeting in person with somebody. If you send an email or a text message to somebody else and they turn around and send that to somebody else and said, Bob told me that he's going to vote this way, I'm thinking I'm going to vote this way, how are you going to vote? That string of communications taken together can be viewed as a violation of the open meeting law as well. So be careful about when you're texting or emailing. It's always best if you have a question to send it directly to the assessor's office, and they can distribute that question or answer as needed. There is a video that our office made. I know this is kind of a very brief update or overview of the open meeting law, but the district attorney's office did make a video about open meeting law that's a little bit more expansive. So if for next time you want to go onto the district attorney's website, it's a YouTube video. It's about 15 minutes. And so I would encourage you to watch that. As far as ethics, the thing that this board needs to watch out for would be conflicts of interest. So if you know somebody who's an applicant, there are several ways that you might have a conflict of interest. One, if there is a family member that is within the third degree of consanguinity, and what that means is that includes, spouses, children, brothers, sisters, mom, dad, grandpa, grandkids, nephews, aunts, uncles, things like that. If you have any kind of familial relationship with somebody who's going to appear before the board, you should contact me so that we can talk about whether or not that might be a conflict of interest. Also, if you have a significant pecuniary or commitment in a private capacity to one of the applicants, say you're a silent partner in the business, or you do ongoing business with them on, in another capacity, but you have some kind of financial connection with them, that could be seen as a conflict of interest. And so if you're looking at the agenda and something like that comes out, I would encourage you to try to contact me prior to the meeting. We can discuss whether or not it's a conflict. Sometimes we would just have you do a disclosure on the record saying this is what the relationship is, whether or not it is a conflict or it's not a conflict, and if you're going to abstain, or we're just going to give a warning on the record just for transparency. That's basically all that I have. I know that was very brief, but if there's any questions, I'm here to answer it. But as you're going along, sometimes somebody might not realize. So if, we're in the middle of the meeting and you suddenly remember, oh, well, this is my sister's, husband's business or something, or just let me know and we can deal with it as it goes on. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ben.
Mary
Kimberly?
Sonata, I do have a question. On previous boards I've served on, if you had a conflict of interest and stated it, then you were required to leave the dais and sit in the audience till the end of that thing. And I'm just wondering if that's your policy also.
Generally, we don't. It's not necessary for you to do that. It just, if you are going to, after you've stated what your conflict is and have decided to recuse yourself, it's just important that you can't take part in the discussion or the voting. So, even though you might have information about it, you're not even allowed to provide background information that you might have, but you're not legally required to leave the dais.
Any other questions of Ben? You're all so small on TV. Um, Kimberly, do you have any other comments?
No, I do not.
Okay, so on to action, agenda item 5B for possible action, hearing, discussion, and possible action on review and approval of stipulation agreement for Antique Car Mall LLC located at 3075 College Parkway, College Drive, APN 007-333-24, case number 2024-000021. Back to the assessor.
Good morning, board members. Travis Haslam, Carson City Assessor's Office for the record. The subject property is a 1.82 acre commercial lot with 2 storage garages at 3061 and 3075 College Drive. Mr. Turner contacted our office regarding the functionality and persistent water damage to the building. During a meeting with Mr. Turner and an on-site inspection, it was discovered that the property has very limited uses regarding warehouse applications due to low clear height and inadequate access. Due to the building being partially constructed below grade and the condition of the roof, both buildings suffer from persistent water damage. Due to these factors, the assessor's office and Mr. Turner have agreed to a stipulation of lowering the total taxable value of the property for the 24-25 fiscal year from $2,046,507 to $1,327,740. For this agreement, we do ask the property owner to provide financial estimates for the roofs annually or until repaired, and to inform us if the property ever is listed for sale or is in contract to sell. I have also included some pictures within the packet. You can see page 12 of this stipulation. Starts off with some internal photos showing the water going through new insulation that they put up months prior to these pictures. And then as you continue through the interior pictures, you can see water damage to the wall. And these walls are built below grade, so that water's just seeping in. They were built very specifically, and they just, especially with the low clear height, they can't have any other good applications for these buildings. They can't do boat storage, RV storage. They've even tried the idea of doing mini storage, but they would have to do an increase in their power to the buildings, and it's just not financially feasible. So we recommend correcting the tax roll for the quality of the building, especially for the functionality of the building, and reducing a lump sum for the curable functional obsolescence, which deals with the roof and the structure, the leaking roof structure.
Are we looking for a motion?
Do we need to have, Mr. Turner's not in the audience, I take it. So with that stated, I accept a motion.
Well, could I have a question first?
Absolutely.
Okay. I would just like more of an explanation of how you arrived at the 450,000 adjustment for permanent functional obsolescence.
Travis Haslam, Carson City Assessor's Office for the record. So the 450,000, this is what we're going to require of the property owner moving forward. This is the estimate to replace both roofs on both structures. It's $220,000 each for the year because they have to redo the membrane from the start and insulation and then rebuild the roof structure on top of that. So that is what we're going to ask of the property owner annually, is that estimate.
Okay, so the $264,767, what was that about?
Travis Haslam, Carson City Assessor's Office for the record. That value comes from correcting the tax roll, which we would lower the rank and quality class of the buildings from a 1.0 to 0.5 and removing the space heaters that are on the record that do not exist in the property. So that's where that value comes from.
Okay, and that was based on what?
Marshall and Swift, cost estimator.
Okay, so I'm asking, what was the reduction of the use of the property based on?
It's the quality class.
Okay, and how did you determine that it needed to be in a different quality class?
When we looked at the cost estimator, there's certain parameters with these buildings that these ones do not match. They may have been put on the roll a little bit higher than what the initial appraiser thought of when they were constructed. But looking through the cost estimator and doing an on-site inspection, we do not feel like it is up to a 1.0.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions for the assessor's office?
I have a comment. Apparently, excuse me,
Okay,
apparently this was, excuse me, appraised initially when the building was new and the roofs didn't leak, and there was an actual use for the property that fit was in there, and so the appraisal at the time seemed appropriate. Now that we're trying to look at it and say, well, that particular use, there's no demand for, therefore it's got an obsolescence built into it, is what basically the main, other than the roofs and the leaking walls, that's the adjustment we're doing.
Travis Haslam, Carson City Assessor's Office for the record. You are correct, sir.
I move we accept the
are there any
recommendation
other
of the assessors for the adjustment.
I second that.
I third
okay,
it.
so we have a motion and
I'm
a
sorry, who
second.
seconded? Okay,
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed? Hearing none. Move on to item, gotta grab the right mouse. Item 5C for possible action, hearing, discussion, and possible action on review and approval of stipulation agreement for Jonathan Barney, located at 1147 Crane Circle, APN 003-352-06, case number 2024-000022. Back to the assessor.
Travis Haslam, Carson City Assessor's Office for the record. The subject property is a vacant 1.01 acre lot at 1147 Crane Circle. During a meeting with Mr. Barney, it was established that the property has had sufficient marketing time, as stated by the listing, 334 days. The public did have time to bid on this property, and it is a true arm's length transaction, so the market value is a fair indicator of what we're asking to lower the value to. Due to the severe slope at the front of the property, it inherently has additional cost to develop compared to the neighbors. The assessor's office and Mr. Barney have agreed to a stipulation of lowering the taxable value for the 24-25 fiscal year from $140,000 to $85,000.
Does anybody on the board have any questions for the assessor's office? Al, Mary?
Nope, not this time.
Okay, so I'd like to call for a motion.
I'll move that we accept the assessor's recommendation to adjust the property value for parcel number 003352116.
I second.
Sorry to interrupt,
So
can we
I'd
correct
like to
the
make a-
motion for the correct parcel number? It's 003
Yes.
35206.
Isn't that what I said? Oh, okay. Okay,
You added a 1. It's okay.
okay.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none or hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll go to agenda item 5D. And 5D is for possible action. Wow, I don't want to say that twice. Discussion and possible action on approval of value change request for Mustard Street LLC located at 504 East Mustard Street, APN 004-181-03, case number 2024-000023. Back to the assessor.
For the record, Bryce Wheely, Carson City Assessor's Office. We request that the County Board of Equalization make the following changes in valuation for the property at 504 East Musser Street, parcel number 004-18103. We would like to remove the economic obsolescence that this board approved last year to bring the total taxable value from $951,926 to $1,038,351. On February 7th, 2023, per the then owner's agreement with the assessor's office, this board approved 15% economic obsolescence for this property due to its underperformance against peer properties, which you can find in Exhibit A. On September 14th, 2023, the owner's agent supplied to us documentation that warranted the financial documentation that warranted the continued economic obsolescence approved by this body. You can find that in Exhibit B. However, the property subsequently sold on December 8th, 2023. Grant bargain and sale deed for that sale can be found in Exhibit C. This was the exact same day that assessment notices were mailed, and the property sold for $1,050,000. At no point was the assessor's office made aware that the property was for sale or in escrow. Given that the demonstrated market value exceeds the taxable value of the subject property, the assessor's office requests that an adjustment to the total taxable value be made to remove economic obsolescence. The 2023-2024 prior year gross assessed value is $267,232. Because the PIGAV is substantially lower than the assessed value, there will be no new taxes due for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. The new owner was notified of our request in the letter you can find in Exhibit D, along with the notice of hearing letter for the clerk recorder. I spoke with the new owner, Mr. Alex Kaiser, on February 8th. We had an amicable discussion and agreed that this was a reasonable course of action for our office to take, but we have an open and constructive dialogue with him. If approved, the new owner will receive an amended assessment notice reflecting the value change.
Do I see a hand raised? Have any questions for the assessor's office?
Yeah, Chairman Block, I just have one question here. If they sold the property for $1,050,000, why don't we have the proposed value? Why didn't we aim that at $1,050,000 instead of the $1,038,000?
Bryce Wheely, Carson City Assessor's Office. Our mandate is to value property as the sum total of the estimated market value of the land and the estimated replacement cost less depreciation of the improvements to the land. So our estimation of the value of the land is $189,050. the obsolescence had been applied strictly to the improvements because land is a non-depreciating asset. And so by getting the sum total of the market value of the land and the replacement cost less depreciation gets us to our total improvement value. We're not permitted to, on improved properties, target the sale price. We set the land value on a per neighborhood basis, and then we estimate the replacement cost less depreciation on
And I
improvements.
think your answer is you're not permitted to aim it towards the sale price.
That is correct.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Members of the board, Kimberly Adams, Assessor for Carson City. I would just like to add that this sheds some light on our process when it comes to the application of obsolescence. And as you see in our stipulated agreement with Mr. Turner's property, we are now requiring of the property owner to notify us of any changes in status of these properties. And we will continue to re-verify the need for any obsolescence on properties moving forward.
I'd like to comment on that. I also note that it's not just the obsolescence you're talking about, but if they were to fix the roof on Mr. Turner's property, then the tax value would go up because you'd be not taking off for that defect on the property. And I also appreciate that they have to tell you when that happens, and it's a requirement. I guess the only question I would have is what if they don't tell you? What if they do like this person did and wait until they sold the property? Oh yeah, well, we did that. You know, and I don't know with the inspections the assessors do, you know, are you going to follow up every year on this? That
Yes.
adds a burden. is what
Yes,
I'm
we
saying.
are. We are.
Thank you.
We are following up on any properties that are receiving obsolescence on an annual basis, moving forward.
So I'd like to clarify in my mind what you've said. In the past, you didn't require the property owner, if there was an obsolescence, to inform you if the property was for sale or in escrow?
We would send notification or request information as far as any income changes and so forth. Within that letter, we did not ask them if the property was on the market in escrow. So we are definitely adding that to our correspondence to them on an annual basis.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments that you would like to add?
I was just thinking, being a real estate agent, that's an interesting dilemma for us because maybe we should be making more phone calls to the assessor's office to make sure there isn't any special tax, agreement, because that's the kind of thing that will bite us as agents for not disclosing. So thank you. I didn't know that, and now I do. So I will go back to our office meeting and bring that up. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Comment on that. I think that the owner of the property needs to bring that to you. And I think if they don't, it's on them, not on you.
Well, that's a good thought. It doesn't work out quite like that in court, but yes.
I
Mr.
think
Ben
that'd be
will
part
tell
of
you
it.
that.
I think that'd be part of your listing agreement to disclose something like that.
Due diligence, yeah. But thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? I don't see any hands. I'd like to call for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the assessor's office request for an adjustment to the total taxable value to remove all obsolescence for parcel number 004-18103.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, great. Now on to item number 6, public comment. The public is invited at this time to comment on any matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item of the agenda. And I'll defer to Kimberly.
Thank you, Jed. We're all done. Yay. Just want to say thank you so much for your service to this county board. And if there's anything that our office can improve on as far as the packets, delivering them to you, we are always trying to streamline the processes for you and make it easier.
I have one comment. So I got an email from Jeremy, and I didn't know who Jeremy was, and it had an attachment. And being very suspicious, I sent it to spam because I do not open an email from, let alone download an attachment from anybody who I don't recognize. So it would be a lot nicer if it came from the assessor's office or something
Perfect.
like that, rather than under a personal name. If
It would have been Jeremy's work email, so it would have been Carson daughter, but the name not being familiar, understood. Yep.
yeah,
We can certainly do that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
thank you.
I just wanted to compliment Jed on having such a quick meeting.
Well, I owe that all to the current assessor. This is one of the fastest meetings we've ever had. I think the second meeting I had, I was about 3 weeks, and we had one meeting that went till about 1:30 in the afternoon. But Al, I appreciate your arm bandages being gone for your shoulder. Mary, it's good seeing you. Colette, everybody. I'm glad you were able to make it. I'm glad the weather's nice up there for for this time of year. And I'd just like to thank the assessor and Ben for all the hard work that they've done to do this, and especially the staff, because oftentimes it takes hours and hours of work. And this one, it seemed like everybody was pretty amenable to what the assessor's done. And with the assessor evaluating properties on a yearly basis, I think that helps the process a lot.
Thank you.
So, any other comments? Seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion for possible action to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Hopefully not. But all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the meeting's adjourned. Thanks so much, and see you all next year.